Welcome back to God is Moving. We are diving deep today,
Yeah.
into Genesis 2,
Oh, yeah.
this time exploring the creation of humanity
Okay.
and the Garden of Eden.
All right.
We've got, I think, some fascinating sources to unpack here. I'm
Yeah.
really excited to explore them with you.
I am too. It's interesting how Genesis 2 really zooms in on the details of creation.
Right.
It offers this kind of more personal perspective
Yeah.
than that grand overview we see in Genesis 1.
Yeah, exactly. It's like going from like a widescreen epic to heartwarming indie film.
I like that.
Yeah, we see God's personal touch in every element,
Mhm.
starting with the Sabbath.
Yeah.
It's,
Right.
not just about taking a day off.
Absolutely. It's deeper than that.
Yeah,
The Sabbath, a day of rest and reflection observed by Jews and some Christians,
right.
invites us to kind of pause,
Yeah.
appreciate creation,
Right.
and, connect with God.
Yeah.
If you think about it, it's a radical concept even today. Uh-huh.
In our always-on culture,
Right.
taking a true Sabbath
Right.
requires intentional disconnection
Yeah.
and a shift in mindset.
That's so true. It's like a countercultural act,
Totally.
a rebellion against the tyranny of busyness.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the current trend towards mindfulness
Yeah.
and the importance of unplugging from technology.
Absolutely.
We're rediscovering what was already there in Genesis.
I find that fascinating.
Yeah.
Ancient wisdom meeting modern needs.
Right.
It kind of suggests that the need for rest, for a space set apart
Uh-huh.
from the demands of daily life,
Mm-hmm.
is deeply woven into our human fabric.
So how does this idea of Sabbath
Yeah.
connect to the creation of Adam?
Whoa.
It seems like God was pretty hands-on in that process.
Remember that image of God forming Adam from the dust of the ground and
Wow.
breathing life into him?
Yeah.
It's so intimate, so personal.
Uh-huh.
It contrasts with the more distant act of speaking creation into being in Genesis 1. It's like God is an artist meticulously sculpting his masterpiece.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this intimate act sets the stage
Yeah.
for the unique relationship between God and humanity.
Whoa.
It's not just a command and obey dynamic, but a relationship built on connection and love.
That makes me think about the Garden of Eden,
Uh-huh.
this paradise where Adam and Eve lived in harmony with God.
Right.
But then there's that element of mystery,
Yeah.
that forbidden fruit.
Okay.
Why would God place a restriction in such a perfect place?
The tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Right.
That's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The forbidden fruit has been interpreted in various ways.
Uh-huh.
Some see it as representing knowledge itself,
Oh, yeah.
while others focus on the act of disobedience.
And what about the tree of life?
Yeah,
That doesn't get as much attention, but it seems pretty significant too.
absolutely. The tree of life,
Yeah.
often interpreted as symbolizing eternal life
Right.
and God's presence,
Mhm.
raises a whole host of intriguing questions.
Okay.
Was it meant to be accessible eventually?
Mm-hmm.
Did Adam and Eve's disobedience cut them off from this potential?
It's like God is saying, I want you to choose me freely, not because you have no other option.
Exactly.
Yeah.
True love and obedience require choice.
Right.
Imagine a world where everyone automatically obeyed God.
Yeah.
Would their actions truly mean anything?
Wow.
Would their love be genuine?
That's a mind-blowing thought.
Yes.
It makes free will,
Mm-hmm.
even with its potential for messiness,
Yeah.
seem essential to the whole human experience.
It raises questions about the nature of good and evil,
Right.
the purpose of suffering, and ultimately the meaning of our existence.
Yeah.
And it all starts with this one forbidden tree in the garden.
And speaking of things not being good,
Okay.
there's that striking moment when God says for the first time,
Yeah.
it is not good for man to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a crack appears in this perfect picture of creation.
That line always gets me. It's such a profound acknowledgement of the human need for connection.
Yeah.
It's not just about practicality or survival. It's
Yeah.
about a deep-seated longing for companionship,
Yeah.
for someone to share life with.
And the way God goes about addressing this not good situation is fascinating.
Okay.
He doesn't just snap his fingers and create Eve out of thin air.
Yeah.
He has Adam participate in the process,
Uh-huh.
naming all the animals,
Mm-hmm.
realizing none of them are suitable companions.
I think that process is key.
Yeah.
Imagine Adam surrounded by all these amazing creatures,
Yeah.
yet feeling utterly alone.
Right.
It highlights the unique nature of human companionship. We're created for a different kind of connection.
Yeah.
One that goes beyond instinct and survival.
It's like God is saying, I hear your loneliness and I'm going to do something extraordinary about it.
And what he does is truly remarkable.
Yeah.
He takes a part of Adam, his very rib,
Right.
and creates Eve.
I remember the first time I read that as a kid, I was totally blown away. It's like a divine surgery creating this profound connection between them.
It's a powerful image of unity and equality.
Right.
Eve isn't created from Adam's head to rule over him,
Yeah.
nor from his feet to be trampled underfoot.
Uh-huh.
She is formed from his side to stand beside him as an equal partner.
And Adam's reaction when he first sees Eve,
Yeah.
this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man. It's just beautiful.
It speaks volumes about their connection,
Yeah.
their shared origin, and the very essence of woman.
Yeah.
It sets the stage for the first marriage, the foundation of human relationships.
But even in this beautiful moment, there's a sense of vulnerability.
Okay.
They are naked and unashamed, but that innocence won't last forever.
That's right. We know what's coming next. The
Yeah.
serpent, the temptation, the fall.
Yeah.
But for now, let's savor this image of paradise.
Right.
This glimpse into God's original design for humanity.
It's a reminder that even in a broken world, beauty and love exist. And it's a powerful image to hold on to as we journey into the more challenging parts of the story.
Absolutely.
But before we do, let's take a quick pause to reflect on what we've uncovered so far.
It's amazing how Genesis 2 manages to convey so much in such a concise narrative. We've covered the Sabbath, the creation of Adam and Eve, the garden, the forbidden fruit, and we're just scratching the surface.
I know, right? It's like every verse is a treasure chest waiting
Yeah.
to be opened. And speaking of treasures, what stands out to you as the most valuable takeaway from this chapter?
For me, it's the emphasis on relationship, from the intimate way God creates Adam to the establishment of marriage. Genesis 2 paints this beautiful picture
Yeah.
of our inherent need for connection, not just with God,
Right.
but with each other.
That resonates with me too.
Yeah.
It makes me think about how often we'd try to find fulfillment in things, in
Right.
achievements and material possessions, when what we truly crave
Yeah.
is authentic connection.
It's like we've forgotten the lesson of the garden.
Hmm.
Adam and Eve had everything they could possibly need,
Right.
yet they still fell prey to temptation.
Yeah.
Perhaps it was because they were seeking something more,
Yeah.
something outside of their relationship with God and each other.
That's a profound thought. It makes you wonder if their disobedience was rooted in a sense of loneliness or a desire for something they felt was missing.
And if that's the case,
Yeah.
it speaks volumes about the human condition.
Yeah.
Even in paradise, we can feel incomplete longing for something more.
But doesn't that make the story even more relatable?
Absolutely.
I mean, who hasn't felt that way at some point, like something is missing,
Mm-hmm.
even when we have so much to be grateful for?
Absolutely. It's a universal human experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes Genesis 2 so powerful. It speaks to our deepest longings, our fears, our vulnerabilities.
It reminds us that we're not alone in our struggles.
Exactly.
Even the first humans living in a perfect world faced challenges and made mistakes.
And yet, despite their disobedience,
Yeah.
God doesn't abandon them. He continues to pursue them, to offer them a path back to relationship.
That's the beauty of God's grace, isn't it?
It is.
It's always available to us, no matter how far we've strayed.
Exactly. And I think that's a message we all need to hear, especially in a world that often tells us we have to be perfect,
Right.
that we have to earn our worth.
Genesis 2 reminds us that we are loved unconditionally, even in our brokenness.
And it invites us to embrace the gift of relationship,
Yeah.
to cultivate meaningful connections with God and with each other.
Speaking of relationship, I'm curious about your take on the creation of Eve from Adam's rib.
Okay.
It's such a striking image, and it's been interpreted in so many different ways throughout history.
It's definitely a powerful image that has sparked a lot of debate.
Right.
Some see it as a symbol of male dominance,
Yeah.
while others interpret it as a sign of equality and interdependence.
Where do you land on that spectrum?
For me, it's about the profound connection between men and women.
Good.
The fact that Eve is created from Adam's rib suggests a deep unity, a shared origin.
Yeah.
They are two halves of a whole designed to complement and complete each other.
I like that interpretation.
Yeah.
It speaks to the beauty of partnership,
Right.
the idea that we're not meant to journey through life alone.
Exactly. And I think it challenges us to move beyond simplistic notions of gender roles
Yeah.
and embrace the richness and complexity of what it means to be male and female, created in the image of God.
And isn't it interesting how this act of creation,
Uh-huh.
the formation of Eve from Adam's rib, leads directly to the establishment of the first marriage.
Absolutely. It's like a divine blueprint for human relationships.
Yeah.
God is saying, this is how I designed it to be.
Mhm.
Two individuals united in love, becoming one flesh.
It makes you think about the whole purpose of marriage, doesn't it?
Oh.
Not just about procreation
Right.
or societal norms, but about a deep soul-level connection
Yeah.
that reflects God's love for us.
And that connection is meant to be a source of joy, companionship, and mutual support. Just look at Adam and Eve in the garden. They are naked and unashamed, fully embracing their vulnerability and intimacy.
It's such a beautiful picture of what a healthy relationship can be.
Yeah.
And it reminds us that we're created for connection, for intimacy, for love.
But as we know that innocence doesn't last, the serpent enters the scene and temptation rears its ugly head.
That's right. And that's where we'll pick up next time as we delve into the fall of mankind and its implications for us today.
Welcome back to God is Moving. We've been unpacking Genesis 2, exploring the creation of humanity in the Garden of Eden. It's been a fascinating journey, hasn't it?
It really has.
From the intimacy of God forming Adam, from dust to the profound connection between Adam and Eve, there's so much to ponder.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
We've talked about the concept of the Sabbath as a day of rest and reflection.
Yes.
And how that connects to the modern need for mindfulness and disconnecting from technology.
Absolutely, a very relevant topic.
And we've discussed how the creation of Eve from Adam's rib speaks to the deep unity and equality between men and women. Challenging those traditional gender roles?
Challenging traditional gender roles and highlighting the beauty of partnership.
Yeah, definitely.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, the forbidden fruit and the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It's such a pivotal element of the story, and it sets the stage for everything that follows.
It really does. It raises all sorts of questions about choice, free will, the consequences of our actions.
Why would God place a restriction in a seemingly perfect paradise?
Right. It's almost like he's inviting Adam and Eve into a deeper level of relationship,
Okay.
one based on trust and obedience, not just instinct or blind following.
So true love requires choice.
Exactly. Imagine if they had never been given the option to disobey.
Right.
Their obedience would have been meaningless.
Yeah, their love less authentic.
God could have created us as robots,
Yeah, just programmed to follow his every command.
But he didn't.
Yeah, he gave us that capacity to choose, even if it meant the potential for pain and suffering.
And that free will, that choice, that's what makes us truly human.
Yeah, it allows us to experience the fullness of relationship, the depth of love, and the bittersweet beauty of redemption.
And speaking of redemption,
Yes.
we know that the story doesn't end with the fall.
Right.
God doesn't abandon Adam and Eve in their disobedience.
He offers them a path back to himself, a way to reconcile their broken relationship.
Exactly. And that theme of redemption, of God's unwavering love and pursuit of humanity, echoes throughout the entire Bible.
Yeah.
It culminates in the ultimate act of sacrifice, Jesus Christ, who takes on the consequences of our sin and offers us forgiveness and new life.
So Genesis 2 might seem like a simple story about creation in a garden,
Right.
but it lays the foundation for some of the most profound truths about our existence.
Oh,
The nature of God, the purpose of humanity, and the power of redemption.
I love how you put that.
It's a story that continues to resonate with us today,
Yeah.
offering insights into our deepest longings, our greatest fears, and our ultimate hope.
For sure.
As we conclude this deep dive into Genesis 2, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought-provoking question. If you were standing in the Garden of Eden,
Okay.
surrounded by beauty and abundance, knowing the consequences of disobedience,
Yeah.
what choice would you make?
That's a tough one. It really challenges us to look inward, doesn't it? To examine our own hearts, our capacity for both good and evil, our need for God's grace.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Genesis 2. We hope it sparked your curiosity and inspired you to delve deeper into the richness and wonder of God's Word.
And may you continue to experience God's presence and guidance in your own life as you seek to live out His purpose for you.
Thanks for listening to God is Moving.